These are the hands of Mark Felix. The strongman from Grenada is known for his massive paws, which help him to roll frying pans and crush apples with one hand. And his multiple world records show that in a sea of strongmen, he is one of the strongest. He's also known for being arguably one of the first great deadlifters. At a time when 800 pounds could make you a multiple-time world's strongest man, his pulls showed that the sport was far from its peak. Along with these talents, he expressed great longevity in a sport specifically known for chewing up even the toughest men. I recall getting worked on after a show where I sustained an injury by a physical therapist who was known for working on local strongmen. And as they explored the knotting, the tender inflamed spots, and the bruising from the tear I had sustained, they summarized the nature of the sport like so. Yep, you and bull riders. The reality of this wear gives each athlete a shelf life, and the push to compete at higher levels often cuts that shelf life down. Longtime competitors like Brian Shaw and Terry Hollands saw substantial declines in their placings after the age of 35, and injuries forced Derek Poundstone into retirement at only 31. Mark Felix, on the other hand, is the face of longevity in the sport, with 20 competitive years behind him and 18 showings at World's Strongest Man. His age at his first contest? 37 years old, well past the point where many competitors have wound down.
I saw you in one of your first contests, but you were like some bodybuilder guy who hadn't done any strongman. Glenn Ross walks out, who's one of the strongest men at that time, been to the Arnolds, king of the deadlift there, and he pulled 7 reps on this brutal car. Everyone else pretty much zeroed it, and there were good guys there. And I said, what do you think you're going to do, mate? Just to kind of slightly amusing myself. And he went, I think I won 14. And he did 14.
So how does one achieve such heights in the first place, crushing metal bars to dust and embarrassing the best deadlifters in the country? And more importantly, how does one hold on to it for decades after it would have crushed the other great men of the sport? Let's get the obvious thing out of the way when it comes to longevity. Genetics. Mark is obviously made of rare stock. His hands measure 10 inches long and 11 inches wide. Shaquille O'Neal is reported to have hands that are 10¼ inches long and 12 inches wide, and he's 7 feet tall. So at 6'4" and with an obvious talent for growing muscle to go along with it, a young Mark Felix obviously had the raw tools that predisposed him to live among the best. Now for his longevity, it runs in the family.
My grandma, she lived till she was 106, and she always been active. Every day she used to go to the garden. The garden wasn't close by, the garden was 2 miles away, and she walked there and back every day, as long as I know her.
Studies around longevity show a strong genetic component, and it very well may be that the same genetics that keep you breathing longer also push back the rate of natural decline and allow you to compete longer. Of course, this is only part of the puzzle. Being tall doesn't guarantee you a spot on the basketball team, just as all the genetics in the world aren't going to make up for diabetes and heart disease that come from a life lived recklessly. Many men are talented, but few have risen to the heights that Mark has, and none of them have lasted as long. So it begs the question, does Mark do anything different, and can we learn from it? Now, at the time where Mark discovered strongman, he had already been training weights for about a decade, according to the man himself. I started training weights in 1993 while working for Carnival Cruise Lines as a bartender. I lifted in a makeshift gym, a storage room at the front of the ship in the crew quarters, with discarded pieces of equipment left by crew members and unwanted items from the passenger gym. I also trained at gyms in various ports on my days off. I trained around the world, however and whenever I could. And Mark's first foray into competing would be bodybuilding, where he competed in multiple shows. Now, bodybuilding would be the foundation of Mark's immense deadlift ability, and he would use simple hypertrophy-based splits in the off-season to develop world-class strength. I'm always asked for my training routine. Today was legs, and it went like this: 60 kilogram squat warm-up, jumping 40 kilograms at a time, 10 reps, final set 220 kilograms. Light leg press, 4x12, leg extensions, 1x10, full rack, increasing by 2 reps each set. Total of 4 sets. 2 sets light leg curls, single 20 kilogram for isolation, full rack leg curls, 4 sets, 10, 12, 14, 16 reps. No competitions coming up right now, so this is a regular leg session. Now this looks like you might have pulled it out of any bodybuilding magazine at the time, and there's a trend in strongman of many greats coming from simple bro backgrounds. Bill Kazmaier, Derek Poundstone, Eddie Hall, all trained with high reps for multiple sets in a way that would give the modern powerlifting specialist rhabdo. Slapping on mass by progressing what you can do for multiple sets of 10 isn't the exception. Among the strongest men in the world, it looks like it's the rule. Now in heavier phases, Mark was not a fan of maxing out. Another thing he has in common with Eddie Hall, who routinely stayed at sets of 6 for his heavy work. I mix it up a lot. Sometimes I'll do 3s, sometimes 5s, and I only train them to the point of fatigue. This allows me to really bounce back and keep working. This measured approach may have made his lifts more crisp and predictable, easier to recover from, and less likely to result in a sprain or injury. I'll do specific event training with lots of compound movements and increase the cardio, generally training heavier. So currently I'm at about 65%, moving up to 80% pre-comp, rarely maxing out in training. You ever find yourself confused by the complexity of programming? I know I struggled like crazy in my early strongman career. There was just too much advice, and every decision I made felt like a guess. As soon as I hit a snag in any program, I would have no idea what to do, so I would inevitably bail. It took me years of training and coaching to figure out how to predictably increase muscle and strength, both in myself and others. And those lessons took me to my own showings in World's Strongest Man, America's Strongest Man, and the Arnold in the 231-pound weight class. This is why we made BaseStrengthAI, to give clear, direct, and personalized instruction right in the middle of your workout in real time. BaseStrengthAI features 3 programs: Block, 70s Powerlifter, and Bull Mastiff, each one inspired by the work ethic and programming of the biggest and strongest bodybuilders, powerlifters, and strongmen throughout history. These templates originated in my book Base Strength, and they can be ran as is, but with BaseStrengthAI, weight and volume are prescribed to you on your specific feedback, and that's personalization that even an online coach can't replicate. This gives you the absolute certainty that every rep is meaningful, that every block of training is getting you closer to your goals. It's my programming, but it's your program. Get the heart of old school training with the intelligence of a coach right in your back pocket. Head now to basestrength.com. In addition to his recognizable deadlift dominance, Mark Felix also won the 2008 Rolling Thunder World Championships by setting a world record of 301 pounds, a number that smashed the previous world record by 27 pounds. He would then go on to beat his own record in 2012 with an absolutely massive lift of 323.5 pounds. Now, Mark was equally impressive in the Apollon's Axle. Iron Mind currently has the world record at 522.5 pounds by Carl Meyerskow. But videos have surfaced of other strongmen, including Mark Felix, putting this record to the test. Terry Hollins did a nasty 540-pound double overhand deadlift, and Mark Felix, specifically using the Apollon's Axle, managed a disgusting 266-kilogram lift, or 585 pounds, from elevated plates. So for some of the strongest hands in strongman, Mark can credit his success to his job as a plasterer. He worked long hours his entire competitive career, never training as a full-time athlete. The job itself is laborious and requires constant use of the hands and forearms. And for grip strength, jobs that require this constant use often gives the blood flow that's needed to grow tendons and the fatigue that's required to grow muscles that few other gym lifts can actually replicate. Any job that involves turning wrenches, throwing hammers, and spreading plaster are all going to be associated with a strong pair of mitts. Now, if you take any such laborer and give them the diet and training regimen of a competitive lifter, you're bound to see forearms and grip strength that push the limits. Now, aside from this, training is still crucial to stand at the top of grip sports. Mark focuses specifically on grip training when he has a grip event coming up, and his regimen includes specific work with the captain of Crush and the Rolling Thunder, the two that he most frequently competes in, along with rope climbs, a sort of secret weapon of his that would be impossible for most 140 kilogram strength athletes. Now, Mark isn't one to focus on specific protocols, special exercises, or magic set and rep counts. He's a man who came from humble beginnings, whose identity is that of a family man and worker above that of an athlete or celebrity.
It was tough. It wasn't easy, for us growing up. We was proper, poor. So we have to get up early in the morning, 5:36, go feed the animals, go in the garden. We have to walk like 2 miles. Sugar cane, lose sugar cane. Everything is manual, so we have to carry it on our shoulder, carry it on our head or whatever.
And it's likely that he sees workout specifics as trivial. I would guess that Mark's success has infinitely more to do with setting the alarm clock for 5 a.m., getting to the job site on time, clocking the hours you agree to, and not finishing until the job's done. That approach is night and day from the modern approach to training, which looks at the workouts as something to be optimized, outsourced, and abbreviated as much as possible.
I drink just a little bit, but not to get drunk.
I've never seen you drink, Mark.
Yeah.
On numerous occasions, when we'd hop off a plane or something, starving, you would never eat junk food. You would just rather, for some reason, it would seem like you'd almost rather starve than eat bad food.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, it's not very good for you as a young. They don't follow any fancy diet. I just eat sensible.
Now, beyond his genetics and his training is one obvious difference that sets Mark apart from his contemporaries, and that's a lifestyle that's committed to work.
How often do you work? A couple times a week?
5, 6 days a week.
Is that the secret? Everybody else tries to become a full-time pro and then lay around in bed trying to save their calories, but you are the longest serving pro by a long way.
Mark has said that the work fills the lows that come after the highs of the contests. His staying power can probably be attributed to rooting himself to the day-to-day. As so many become full-time lifters, they take the burden of world-class expectations and very quickly burn themselves out, either psychologically or physically.
1 minute you hear a million people screaming at you, and the next minute you go home and just you.
You think it's good for you to keep you in, so keep you in check?
Yeah, just keep me in check. So I go back home, get my mind off all this, so I just go straight back over.
Mark is a tradesman through and through. Lifting is a craft. It's a labor of love, something you grow into by getting your hands dirty, and something you do for the sake of doing as long as you can. It's not something to be hacked or shorted or even optimized. This is the lesson of the master tradesman. It's also worth pointing out that his calm demeanor might reduce stress and have a positive impact on his performance and longevity. We usually see high performances in this field by explosive personalities. We see aggression, arrogance, anger, even neuroticism, and it seems to be a feature that's too often represented. Think of the highs of feeling strong and powerful in a workout and how they're mirrored by the lows that come immediately after. Think of the stress of continuously trying to channel passion and rage into a lift. Think of the wear and injury risk of throwing your body into a limit lift in a desperate attempt to get as good as you think you deserve to be. Think of the sleepless nights before big competitions, the insecurity as you pace around each event, the pressure to be able to channel the same rage on command, and the low that comes with the inevitable missteps and failures. Now imagine this man, in his 15th year, a laborer in a sport filled with superstars, with modest goals driven by a steady plan. The calmness of Mark Felix isn't just a quirk of his personality, it dictates how he puts his plans together, when he decides to hit the gas or leave some in the tank, how he conceptualizes goals, what makes him satisfied, and what defines a loss or a victory. There are the bright flashes who come and go too quick, but it takes a Zen-like balance of high standards balanced with reasonable expectations, intense productivity balanced with ultimate sustainability to make it this many years in a sport that is so brutally demanding. Mark's career was built by the same calm, patient hands that feel the fatigue of every layer of plaster, but nonetheless will stay around to see the job through. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.